At school, I didn't really fit in that well. And I saw at school enormous injustices going on. You know, there were people that were academically brilliant, who sort of had their own clique. There were people that were brilliant at sport, and there were people that were cool. And I didn't fit into any of these, and it was a really odd time for me, trying to work out what the hell. And it was like Lord of the Flies. You seemed to be bullied when you were in the first year by the year above, and when you were in the year above, you bullied the person below. And I couldn't understand this, and it just seemed so wrong. But I kind of got by and was left alone and wasn't bullied because I wore funny t-shirts all the time. And everybody thought, he's quite an amusing kid. And this is one of my favourite t-shirts that I wore, which is, "Ignore this person." And I wore this t-shirt for about 5 years, and my father didn't stand on my left-hand side for about 5 years.
Right here? Yeah.
Does the hoodie look alright and everything? My name's Dave Griffiths, and I'm a stand-up comedian and owner of King Cnut Clothing.
Yeah, sure. I might actually do on my
I was born on a Friday the 13th in June, and I was born 1 minute to midnight, and the doctor asked my mother, would she like the 14th to be put on the birth certificate? And my mum said, don't be so ridiculous, and I've had bad luck ever since.
They used to do little plays.
Oh, yeah.
These two.
At our grandparents' house.
Yeah, do you remember?
Yeah.
And, you know, they'd be doing a very serious little
Oh, yeah,
act,
David would come
practicing.
along
David would
ages.
come in and spoil the whole thing.
Yeah.
No, go away.
Yeah.
You're ruining our play.
That's right. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Rosie and I am Dave's big sister.
My name's Angela and I'm Dave's mum.
And I'm Mandy and I'm Dave's other sister. Also big. No. Can I say that again?
And we used to tell him lots of stories about school days, and he would end up adopting those stories for his own and talking to other people as if he went to the same school as us in the end, yeah. But often when he adopted stories like that, he would embellish them a little bit, shall we say, and make them his own, make them funnier, but sometimes get caught telling the same stories back to the original person who told him the story, which didn't always go down too well.
That's my story. That happened to me.
My name's Guy Hammond, and I know Dave from college days.
My name's Neil Bennett. Dave is a very good friend, has been for over 20 years. And he's a great source of constant entertainment.
Is that all right? Pass the test.
Yeah.
Some people thought I was mad. Some people thought, this is brilliant, you're going to do what you want to do. I wrote some stuff which I thought was quite funny. Went to a pub that had an open mic night, tried it there, did all right. I now look back at that material and realise it was absolute crap. But initially, you know, you're up against other crap people, so it seems quite good. It was good crap in compared to the other crap. Okay.
I had an operation in Royal Parks about 4 months ago, just to have my sinuses done. And it's rather worrying what has happened to the Royal Parks, because when I was in the ward, there was a sign on the wall. It said, "These are operating in this area." Really worrying before I had my operation. I don't know what's happened to that place.
And then one day I was travelling with a friend of mine, Neil Bennett, and we were going across Vauxhall Bridge on the way to Newcastle, and I saw the first French Connection billboard. It was massive. It said French Connection FCUK. And I turned to Neil and I said, that'd be so much funny if that was CNUT. And we both laughed like mad about it. And then we just drove on to the gig, and about an hour later, Neil turned to me and he said, you know what, that's really good. And I said, what? Because I have so many things running through my head and now nothing's usually very good. And he went, that CNUT thing is brilliant. It's the first mixtape. Poster has only just been up this week, and you've done the best mixtape that possibly could be done. You've taken it to the next level. I was like, really? He said, yeah, you should get a t-shirt made of it.
No, I may well have been in the car. Yeah, but no, this is like 15 years ago. I don't remember things I said in the car last week.
So the next gig was my first 10 minutes at the Comedy Store. And I had a t-shirt made with CNUT, French Correction. And I came onto the stage and everybody started laughing, everybody was clapping. The reaction was brilliant. And it was the best gig I ever had for the first 10 seconds, because the rest of the gig I died horribly, but the t-shirts went really well. One of the other comedians said, oh, I really like one of those t-shirts, I'll buy one from you. I said, I'm not selling them. I'll make you one and give it to you. And then other people started asking, where do you get that t-shirt? Can I have one? And I realised that maybe I could start selling these t-shirts. You don't make much as a comedian. I had some screen printed and I started giving them out and selling them, and I started a website that was frenchcorrection.net. But then I received a letter to stop it. Dear Sirs, we act on behalf of French Connection Limited. It has recently come to our clients' attention that you are operating a website advertising and selling t-shirts. Such t-shirts feature the slogans with the wordplay such as Cnut and Winaka, clearly influenced by our client's prominent trading name and registered trademark for CUK. Also, I had Winaka because I thought that was the obvious second choice. If not, everybody would want to wear Cnut and Winak as the shorter version. Your purpose is clearly to take advantage of our client's goodwill and reputation. As a result, our client is suffering damage to its goodwill, a loss of control over its reputation, and an erosion of strength of its own domain name. We look forward to hearing from you. Yours faithfully, Davenport Lyons. I mean, your heart sinks when you get one of those letters. Oh my God, they're accusing me of stealing their idea. They're accusing accusing me of being some sort of criminal. They're threatening to sue you. I'm going to have to get a lawyer to have a look at this because I haven't got a clue what the hell is going on, and it sounds so threatening.
I tried to be a rock star and went to live in London for a year and starved. I still do have a band, yeah, absolutely. We played on Saturday night. And it's probably the best band I've ever been in.
I was recommended by someone. He was a one-man band, he was cheap, he was in Slough, so it just seemed perfect.
My name's Duncan Thomson. I'm one of the partners at Aston Bond Law Firm, and we're a wonderful firm of solicitors. Yeah, letters like that are designed to be scary. They're designed to make you stop doing what the writer does not want you to carry on doing. So they tend to be very formal, and they tend to set out, to begin with, the legal position, then they set out the factual position, and then they'll say what they want you to do within what period of time, and then there'll be a consequence if you fail to comply within the time limit.
And I was like, I haven't actually infringed on their trademark. I've put CNUT, I've used French correction. It looks nothing like FCUK and French Connection.
But you have to remember that companies like French Connection, without their trademark, without the goodwill in the brand,
they're nothing. They're just another clothing manufacturer and seller. So they will fight tooth and nail, as will any other well-known household brand holder, to protect the brand and protect the image.
They were saying, you know, give us the website, give us the T-shirts. That's not theirs. I paid for that. They wanted everything as if it was theirs, even though it didn't say French Connection or FCUK. I could understand if it said FCUK or French Connection.
I don't see trademark infringement in the designs of the T-shirts, but I can see a far better argument for trademark infringement in relation to the name of the website itself.
French Correction is, you know, is a mictate of French Connection. So whatever you do as a mictate is going to be seen as slightly close to that other brand. It was nothing to try and take their business away from them. Their multi-million-pound business being taken away by me is absolutely ridiculous. This is a letter from a lawyers called Davenport Lyons.
Davenport Lyons were a large London law firm who would have offices in many countries.
116 offices.
They would have hundreds, if not thousands, of lawyers.
4,500 people.
Almost infinite resources. A very well-known big city law firm.
But I noticed in their letter that French Connections lawyers, all 4,500 in 116 offices, had made a terrible mistake, which for a comedian was comedy gold. It said, our client's advertising budget for the UK alone exceeds £3.5 per annum.
I do remember a conversation, and I said, Dave, it's obviously £3.5 million, not £3.50.
So I phoned my lawyer and said, look, let's write back and say, my advertising budget is twice as much as theirs. Who are they? Why are they writing me? I've never heard of them.
Probably the words I would have used would have been something like, don't make a daft point. But Dave's always looking for the comedy angle.
My lawyer said, no. I thought that they'd been totally unreasonable, ridiculously heavy-handed. I didn't think I'd done anything wrong. It was supposed to be a mictate. That was it. I didn't see any confusion. And they had a lot of money. Every letter was costing money. And at some point I was beginning to run out of money. So I had to decide what I was going to do.
Dave was a more or less penniless comedian, stand-up comedian. Quite funny, but no cash. French Connection, multi-million-pound business. To all intents and purposes, they have endless resources. They can bury you in paper. Not a fair fight.
Because I'd made them and I own them, and if I'd rather burn them than have them get something for free.
What Dave did was he effectively discontinued use of the website, FrenchCorrection.net. French Connection appeared to be satisfied with that, and that was the end of it.
All right, so the first brochure comes through the door. I better say French Connection brochure. So the first French Connection poster comes through the door. What did I say? Poster. No, what a load of rubbish. So the French Connection okay. So I'm ready. All right. So I started to investigate French Connection, basically. I'd go into their shops and I'd go and have a look what the hell they were selling. I signed up to their newsletter, their email newsletter. I signed up to their brochure. I wanted to know who the hell was telling me to give them things for free and really using bullying tactics, and what sort of people were they and what were they producing. I was studying the enemy as I saw them. And when the first brochure turned up and I had a look through, I couldn't believe my eyes, because I saw a t-shirt that had a logo on that looked exactly like the Ford logo, with the FCUK in the Ford writing in a big oval shape. And I was like, hang on a minute, they're saying to me that I'm copying an idea of theirs when they are copying other people's designs. So just to make sure, I asked a few people what logo they thought this t-shirt was, and all of them said it was Ford. So out of the kindness of my heart, I phoned Ford and told them of this terrible infringement that was going on. And Ford were like, yeah, that is our logo in the t-shirt. And I said, well, are you going to have it withdrawn? And they said, wow, French Connection were quite a cool company. So the logo had a bit of kudos being, FCUK, and it might actually help Ford. Until I said, it looks to me like it's saying, fuck Ford, drive a Mercedes. Then they suddenly realised in their heads that, oh my God, it says fuck. Yeah, fuck Ford. Rather than it being good for Ford, they realised it was bad for Ford. And that's when they decided that they were definitely going to withdraw it. Within a week, every single t-shirt that had the Ford logo on was withdrawn from French Connection shops. Every single brochure with the Ford logo t-shirt picture in was withdrawn. So I was like, oh great, I've managed to get one withdrawn. I was feeling, a bit better about myself, that I managed to get a bit of revenge for the hypocrisy that was going on. But then the next brochure turned up and I couldn't believe what I saw. It was a picture that clearly had a person with a t-shirt and it had the Pepsi logo on it with FCUK in. And I was like, oh my God, I just can't believe that they've told me not to do something that they are unbelievably, blatantly doing, not just once, but now twice. So out of the kindness of my heart, I phoned Pepsi and told them of this terrible infringement. And they didn't need telling, fuck Pepsi, drink Coke, because they have enough people with accidentally drinking Coke instead of Pepsi as it is. And they had that t-shirt withdrawn within a week. Well, I felt a sense of achievement that I'd got the Pepsi one withdrawn as well. And it was, I was thinking, this is great, but I've got to get on with my own life. I've done so much work getting this withdrawn that I'm hardly doing any comedy. I'm not doing anything else. But then the next brochure turned up. A t-shirt that was infringing clearly on the Mars brand. So out of the kindness of my heart, I phoned Mars and they say, it's not a fuck a day, it's a Mars a day. And they had it withdrawn straight away. They were absolutely furious about it. Yeah, it started with Cnut attitude because Cnut.com was already taken, and I just thought attitude, having a bit of a attitude was a good word, but then I discovered that people couldn't spell attitude, so there was a huge problem.
I studied history at university, and whilst sort of doing 11th century English history, was reading these old texts where King Cnut was spelt C-N-U-T.
It was Neil that really started it. He said, look, you realise that there is a king called King Cnut.
I was just sharing with him sort of what I'd spent 3 years at university learning.
And I just thought, maybe originally not enough people knew about it to make it so people could find my website. But in fact, quite a lot of people do know about King Cnut. And we thought it was a lot cooler that there really was a person that was a king of England. And that would be another sort of selling point. So I then changed to King Cnut. And we were taught that his name was spelt C-A-N-U-T-E. But in fact, the original spelling was C-N-U-T. The C-A-N-U-T-E is the phonetic spelling, which means is how we say Cnut. That's how we pronounce it. But I reckon that they changed his name from C-N-U-T to C-A-N-U-T-E because everybody kept calling him King Cnut.
King Cnut was known probably in his own lifetime and certainly very soon afterwards as the Emperor of the North. He was the King of England from 1016 until 1035. He was also King of Denmark and King of Norway. He was King of small parts of Sweden. He had the King of Scotland submitted to him as an overlord. Also Kings of Ireland, and he owned the Shetlands, Orkneys, and certainly had some influence in Iceland as well. By all accounts, a wise and calm and politically very astute leader who really gave England a solid basis and really helped her to establish as a strong political and economic force in Europe. The story that a lot of people know about King Cnut is the idea of him turning back the waves. And what happened, if we are to believe the stories, is that Cnut set his throne on the shoreline as the tide was coming in. People believe that this was because he said he was a king and he could turn back the waves. In fact, it was completely the reverse. What it actually was that Cnut was telling his subjects, even though I'm a king, God is above us all. And indeed, the tide came in and lapped around his feet. We don't know what was wrong with Cnut, that there was no evidence, but there appears to have been no suggestion, as there were with other deaths, of any wrongdoing. He appears to have died peaceably. I'm Joanna Courtney. I'm a novelist, and I'm a passionate Anglo-Saxonist.
I thought, well, maybe this was one that might not mind, because jurecs are basically about vercucking. The more people vercuck, the more condoms that they sell. But I thought, I phoned everybody else, so I might as well phone them. I got hold of a jurex, and they said, we're about family planning, not fucking. They were absolutely furious. They were actually one of the ones that were really the most angry about having their trademark infringed. So they immediately took action, and they were very appreciative that I brought it to their attention. I had t-shirts with, if you don't believe in oral sex, keep your mouth shut. Or, does this condom make me look fat?
So you then find a KFC infringement.
Why French Connection wanted to be connected with KFC, I wasn't sure, because one's quite a smelly food, greasy food, and the other one is a t-shirt. But, they obviously thought it was funny. So I found out that Kentucky Fried Chicken's head office was in New York. When I finally got through, I asked for the top person. I was going to say Ronald McDonald. When I finally got through, I asked for the top person, Colonel Sanders, and they said that he was dead. So they put me through to another area within the company, and they answered the phone, Pepsi Cola. And I was like, I'm sorry, I've phoned the wrong people. And they were like, why? Who are you trying to get hold of? And I said, Kentucky Fried Chicken. They said, yeah, we own Kentucky Fried Chicken. And I was like, you won't believe what has happened. And they were absolutely livid. They were like, I can't believe that French Connection have infringed on another one of our brands. And they took action immediately. To phone a company, first of all, you have to find out where their head office is. Then you find the number, you get through to the receptionist, you explain to the receptionist what is going on. So then you get passed on to maybe marketing and they go, oh, what's this about? And you have to explain the whole story again. And they go, right, okay, they're not really getting the gist of it. Then they'll put me through to maybe the public relations or press. And then finally, you'll find someone that is actually responsible for the logo and the design and protection. The person wanted to hear what I had to say. I had to send them a picture of the T-shirt. So I'd email them a picture from the brochure.
How can I help you?
Hello. I was wondering if I could speak to the trademark department.
The trademark?
Yeah.
And do you have a name for me?
As in my name or the name of the person I need to speak to?
Yeah.
I don't know the person you need to speak to, but my name is Dave Griffiths. Is that helpful?
Okay. There are so many people here that it's really difficult.
Right.
Can you tell me it's about what short?
Right. Well, there's been a definite infringement of the trademark of Nike.
Yeah.
And do you know a company called French Connection?
No.
It's a clothing company.
Okay, I know that, of course.
And they have the joke FCUK.
Okay.
Okay, and you know what that looks like?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a comedian and I have another company. And instead of FCUK,
yeah,
I have CNUT. Now, does that mean anything to you? Does it?
No.
It doesn't mean anything to you.
No, what is it?
It's a rude word. It's a very rude word. I can't actually explain it. But in English, it's like one word ruder than, if I excuse my French, fuck. It's actually a ruder word.
Right, but you said CNUT.
Yes.
That's nothing.
That means nothing, okay. No. But if you change the letters and have CUNT...
Oh!
Yeah, there was a lot of word going around on the circuit, on the comedy circuit. People were like going, oh my God, Dave's managing to get the better of a major corporation. It was quite a buzz topic, I suppose, at the time. And whenever anybody saw me, comedians, they were going, how's it going with your fight against French Connection? And I got an article in the Daily Mirror. I also got an article in the Times, getting shirty. And the great thing about the Times was that they started phoning people like Pepsi and Mars and Ford and making sure that they were withdrawing the T-shirts. And what the Times did as well, they spoke to a certain company who were not best pleased with me. Which is one of my favourite quotes. They were beginning to find out and know that it was me that was doing this.
Yeah. That's all right. I remember being filmed actually once whilst we were training in the Inland Revenue. My name is Andrew Carter. Some years ago now, I did briefly have an online T-shirt business, and I had a bit of an altercation with French Connection. Around about that time, bumped into Dave Griffiths on the internet, and now I'm here being interviewed as part of the film that I understand is being made about what happened to him.
And then the family cat, a band, who was around the time of the Inspiral Carpets contacted me.
My name's Steve Gilbert. In the early 90s, I was a musician in a band called The Family Cat, who were the first people to have the stupid idea of putting the initials FCUK on a T-shirt and selling it for money.
And also I got an email from someone called Phil Nugent informing me of the fact that the Pepsi logo T-shirts had been withdrawn from their shop. Dear Dave, I mean, that's what he said originally, all right?
I think it was probably sparked because I'd read a story about somebody who, he'd started running a line of T-shirts that just said, "No, I don't have a fucking loyalty card." And he'd sold several hundred of these. And I thought, oh, if you come up with the right slogan, if you come up with the right logo, maybe you could make a little bit of money. It was never more than anything on the side. I mean, never more than half a dozen or a dozen T-shirts a week.
We kind of used the FCUK thing quite a lot. It would be the catalogue numbers on the records. It was the catalogue number on our singles after a while. And it was a backdrop to the target with the FCUK on it.
I was in the States in September 2001 and French Connection was opening a flagship store in San Francisco. They bring out a range of T-shirts using the logos of Pepsi, Burger King, Mars and Durex. It's not like they even had any intention of trying to pass the logos off as similar. The tags on the Pepsi tees read Pepsi Logo Tee.
My best seller for a short period of time was my FCEK design, which I would say that probably sold as many T-shirts as all the other designs that I'd had put together. After it had been selling quite well for several weeks, I thought, well, perhaps I should try and trademark it.
FCUK is obviously a very terrible pun on Family Cat UK. It was our merch man's flatmate who originally mentioned it, I think, at some point, and suggested that we could use this dreadful joke as some kind of signifier for the band.
So I was surprised when I went into work one day and was asked to remove all of the Pepsi logo T-shirts from the shop floor, from the shelves in the stockroom, anywhere they could be found, basically. Our manager was livid. He said something along the lines of, "Get those for-cucking T-shirts out of this store. I don't care if you for-cucking burn them, just get rid of them."
So I submitted the trademark to the trademark organisation, the government-run patent and trademark office. And then whilst I was waiting for that to go through, out of the blue, my mobile phone rang, and it was somebody saying they were a lawyer representing French Connection. They had seen my application to register FCEK, the Irish Connection, as a trademark, and they were going to oppose it.
I think it was Kev, the drummer, just said, "Yeah, I see that French Connection have ripped us off." And it was just like, and we laughed because, it was just like, who the hell's going to take such a stupid idea seriously? Yeah, but obviously they managed to market it within an inch of its life.
I did think this was something of an overreaction until he told me that someone from Pepsi had gone into one of their stores, mystery shopper style, and asked for a Pepsi T-shirt. Unfortunately, the member of staff he spoke to had just come on shift and had not been fully briefed as to the day's events, and duly fetched one from the stockroom. This little error apparently cost the store somewhere in the region of £70,000.
And sure enough, a few weeks later, I got a letter from the Patent and Trademarks Office saying that my application had been opposed and that it was going for a hearing. We submitted our case for hearing, and a few weeks later, we received a letter from the Patents and Trademark Office saying that I had been partially successful. And bearing in mind, as I say, I was selling half a dozen T-shirts a week. I just didn't have the inclination or the money to take it forward. And I guess from that perspective, French Connection won.
We weren't upset, but as it became kind of everywhere for a while, and it just seemed to be this weak branding exercise. But the band had split up by then, which is why there was no point, there was no possibility of chasing after it.
I was very appreciative that he sent me that letter, and I immediately wrote back an email saying, thank you very much, and, this is brilliant.
A very strange moment, very surreal moment from the phone call onwards and the letters and the sudden realisation that on one side of the battle was French Connection and a very large firm of lawyers, and on the other side of the battle was me, on my own.
We got to the point that after we split up, my father once said to me, your band nearly made it. I went, yeah, we did. So, close enough.
It was so clear to him that they were blatantly just copying other people's ideas. I mean, including having the tag on the T-shirt saying Pepsi logo T. I mean, that is just as blatant as you can get. And what French Connection did next was unbelievable. They stopped sending me my brochure. They stopped sending me the French Connection newsletter. Rejection hurts. One been coming for several months. The brochure would come through the door, then the next month, and I knew when the next one was coming out. It just didn't arrive. And then I realised that no more emails were coming to me. And you get emails probably once every 2 weeks, and there was none. So I could tell immediately that they'd take me off their mailing list.
I remembered about the brochures not coming anymore. I do remember that bit.
And I had to recruit my poor mother to sign up for the French Connection brochure and sign up for the email. And I was living in Brixton at the time, so she was forwarding the email on and sending me the brochure up there. My mother was like, what is all this CNUT, Cnut stuff, and FCUK? And I was like, Mum, CNUT, you remember King Cnut? That's how it was spelled originally. King of England 1016, tried to stop that. And I was like, oh, yeah, King Cnut, that's right. And what about FC? I said, Mum, that's an acronym for French Connection UK. She's like, oh, right. And a month later, she went, really looks like cunt and fuck. And that is Motorhead. And I phoned Lemmy. And Lemmy was absolutely furious. He said, I'm going to smash in every French Connection window. I'm going to beat up every single director for French Connection. And I was like, my God, this is almost getting out of control.
Perfect. Now, let me come back to reality. First question.
Yeah.
So you were...
And this was one of the best days of my life because I have been one of the biggest AC/DC fans ever since I was a kid. And any band that makes millions from song titles like Let Me Put My Love Into You deserves every penny that they get. So I phoned AC/DC and they were absolutely livid. I continued to just search for infringement. I couldn't stop. Once I got all them, I just kept looking. I kept looking in the brochure, I kept going into the shops. But actually, I was going further and further into getting things withdrawn. It was becoming a real obsession by this point. And it didn't matter anymore whether it looked slightly like the brand. If it looked anything like it, I would phone them. So IBM, phoned. Coca-Cola, phoned. Dunkin' Donuts, phoned. And if they didn't think that they were going to want to withdraw the t-shirt, I showed them the female version. And it's amazing how fast people that eat donuts all day move when they saw a t-shirt like that. And then a weird combination of trademark infringement, which was the Wimpy logo, and inside was the McDonald's logo. So I phoned both. The irony of this whole story is that I'm actually French Connection's best customer, because if I knew a t-shirt was going to be withdrawn, I'd run into French Connection and buy a t-shirt. I've sometimes bought 2 or 3 of the same if they're in different colours or they had a slightly different design. They should be very pleased with my custom. I've got them to where they are today. And the worst thing about having all these t-shirts out for the movie is that I've got to fold them all afterwards.
Can you do me a favour and introduce yourself one more time?
I'm Richard. I worked for French Connection from mid-96 to late 98, and I was their in-house graphic designer. I'd been working at a forecasting consultancy in Islington. There was one particular women's wear designer who I got on very well with, and she'd been working freelance at French Connection as well, in-house, and they needed some graphics. They were a successful high street retailer. They were at the top end of the market. They'd gone from relatively niche to being actually quite an important presence on the high street. Oh God, yeah, it was a really great place to work. Everybody there was really good. Really exciting place to develop new ideas. Everyone worked really hard. Everybody knew that it was a good working environment. It was a good professional environment. I think there was a very healthy environment as well. It was never about reinventing the brand. The brand was actually very, very strong. The product was very strong, and they were going in the right direction. I was never asked to sit down and rebrand the company. It didn't need that. My role was to make it better, make it work better. One of the problems with French Connection is that it's a very, very long word and a bit of a mouthful. And a big part of my job was T-shirts, men's and women's wear, kids wear. You needed something that was quite visually strong. And the good thing about T-shirts is that they're a low value, high return product. So more T-shirts, more branding, and it's actually advertising your brand as well. So we needed to really make that work. The actual FCUK literally came from the headed note paper for faxing. We didn't have email. Everything was done by fax. There were factories all over the world. And there was a tray of paper that said FCUK, FC Hong Kong, HK, FC NY, FC New York. And I think that's all it was. And it was just a joke in the studio. I never thought we'd go in the shops. Stephen saw it, liked it, thought it was funny, got the joke, and he was on his way to Littlewoods to talk about putting products into a catalogue, and they hated it. They thought it was awful. And he thought that was great. He thought it was really funny. Came back and said, yeah, we like it, we'll do it. Oh, it was massive. It was partly because you could talk about it. I mean, when was the last time anyone actually talked about a T-shirt? I think it was also summer. It was a very accessible, easy product. It was funny, and it was just, it just worked really, really well. Everything that they did in the advertising already existed, either in garments or in print or in the press. It was all in the public domain. People had already seen it and had been for quite some time. I can completely understand why that mythology for about 5 or 6 years grew up about the marriage of French Connection and Trevor Beatty, because that was part of the job, and it did the stores and the brand a lot of good as well. And I think that Beatty was credited over and over and over again because you would associate him with that, because that was the whole point of it. I've read interviews where he said, yes, of course I did that. And I've read interviews with him, he said, no, I didn't do that.
Let me ask you then about stepping a little bit into the whole trademark infringement thing. Okay, French Connection started at one point to copy a lot of logos.
No, I wouldn't. Well, not when I was there. I think everybody in the office when I was there was in mid to late 20s. So we would have been born in the late 60s. So we would have gone through the 70s. We would have gone through punk and things like that. It was perfectly legitimate and respectable to take something old, rip it up and make it into something new. There's call it homage, call it heritage, call it pastiche or parody. It was a good thing. Recreating something and making it fresh is a positive thing to do. It's not copying. We didn't copy things. It just didn't work like that. It was quite virtuous.
Good guy. What about, would it be after you left, they started to actually incorporate logos?
I didn't really follow it that much after I'd left. When I would eventually, I'd see things that were close, like just too close. I thought, well, that's actually quite clumsy. And of course, you've created a thirst for an FCUK product. People liked it, they got the joke, people wanted to buy into it. And there's like, what's next? We want more, we want more, we want more. And you just had to keep churning this stuff out. And it's quite hard to keep it fresh every single time. Well, the funny thing is I've never actually been able to tell anybody I did it because they don't believe you. There was one occasion about a year after I'd left French Connection when I was working, and I'm still working with a retail consultancy, and we put together a credentials pitch for quite a big job. And they pulled up on my stuff and said, he didn't do that. I know who did that. My cousin's second next door neighbour did that. This is all not true. And people just don't believe that there weren't 50 people working behind the scenes developing this. It really was that slapdash. We just did it and put it together. Family Cat. It never happened. I knew who they were vaguely in the background because I liked music, but I'd never heard them. They had nothing whatsoever to do with it. It's just a coincidence, a complete coincidence. I didn't know anything about that until years later. No, completely, absolutely nothing to do with French Connection at all. Anecdotally, after I'd left, I was told by somebody who had actually had quite a senior position, who I was still am very friendly with, that 2 or 3 years before I joined the company, the warehouse and the wholesalers in central London had a 5-a-side football time, and the team was called FCUK.
I'm not entirely sure. I believe that he was originally going to call it French Collection, even though it's an English company. They thought they'd get a bit of kudos by pretending that they were French. He saw, I believe, the film, The French Connection, and he liked it so much he thought that that was a better name than French Collection. And so he called it French Connection. So copying the name of a film.
Other people will say it's because he was married to a French woman. I don't know. Don't think it really matters. Great film.
Great film.
Yeah. And as was Stephen's ex, she was lovely. Nicole, great woman.
The double whammy on 20th Century Fox was that they had originally made the film The French Connection. And now... So, out of the kindness of my heart, I phone 20th Century Fox and they say, "Is that Dave Griffiths?" And I'm like, "Yes, it is." And they were like, "We've heard about you. Are you phoning about the 20th Century Fox infringement by French Connection?" "Yes, I am." I was like, "Yeah, this is good. They already know who I am." And they went, "Well, we're not going to do anything about it. We're not going to play your game. And you're only phoning us for your own benefit to get revenge on French Connection, so we're not going to play your game." And I was like, "So you're not going to remove your T-shirts from the stores?" "No, we're quite happy with it because they've got a bit of kudos for us. And also, their models look really good. And so we'd be quite happy for them to infringe on our logo." I started to learn about trademark law after I received that letter. The guy lost the case on the track, and I knew that if one company allows another company to infringe on their logo and they don't protect it, it opens the floodgates for other companies to infringe on their logo. Would they be okay with that? Because they were okay with French Connection infringing 20th Century Fox, so it must be okay for me to infringe their trademark as well. And I sent them a picture of the model that I was going to use to model the t-shirt. So every single t-shirt was withdrawn and every brochure with the picture of the fantastic model in the 20th Century Fox t-shirt was withdrawn.
Oh, goodness. That's a very difficult question. Don't know. I think it's just happened over the years, and I think it's just become more obvious as the years have gone on, really. But I can't remember. I mean, I don't remember that when he was younger, really. I think that's become a thing, hasn't it, really, of latter times, but I don't know. I couldn't like to say when it was.
But he does have it now.
I would say yes. I would say he's quite obsessive about things. Yeah.
About everything?
Not everything. Certainly not about tidying up.
Yeah, I'm totally obsessed, but I'm totally obsessed with any injustice. So it doesn't matter if it's French Connection or the government in Bosnia or whatever.
He definitely has a personality which, Dave's personality is, it can be one single track. So he'll get something in his mind and he'll just run with it and run with it and run with it and run with it. And you just hope that what he's running with is productive, won't destroy him.
Yeah, I didn't know. I mean, many people have said to me I've got an obsessive compulsive disorder. An obsession as such. I become obsessed about things. If something was wrong, or if I didn't like something, I'd obsess about it. And it would go over it and over it and over it. Or if I got into trouble, I'd go over it. If something was unjust, I would go over that, and I couldn't let go of things.
He doesn't seem to be able to get away from it. It's always there.
I don't know. I was just born with an awareness where things were right and things were wrong, and that if they seemed wrong to me, like someone being bullying, then I knew immediately it was wrong, and I'd have to try and intervene. I couldn't leave things, whereas a lot of people go, well, that's how things are.
It's definitely there, He's, he's very clear about, he's got a very strong set of principles. He'll always be quick to point out any kind of hypocrisy.
Yeah, he doesn't like injustice.
No.
Not one little bit.
I presume my obsession with injustice must have come through my parents. I mean, that's how most things come through. So they obviously taught me what was right and what was wrong, what they felt was right and what was wrong. And my father always said, if you felt injustice, then you should always fight against it. And every person, is equal. And that, there shouldn't be a situation where someone, for instance, is bullied. That just isn't right. Everybody should be treated with the same amount of respect.
I do know that he has become more and more determined as he's got more into it.
Never seen anyone, I don't think, work as hard as David. It's taken over his life, really, I'd say.
The negative is that it takes your total focus away from anything else. I mean, I spent nearly all my money on this and didn't go out, didn't go on holiday. I just purely fought this and put all my resources, energy and money into this, into fighting this cause. I got a letter from the council threatening me with prison for not paying my council tax in time. So I'd obviously let everything slip. I hadn't paid for ages. I hadn't paid hardly any bills. I was getting red bills left, right and centre.
Well, I worry in that I think it does take over his life a bit too much, probably.
All those phone calls he made, and when it became almost stopping Dave living his life and doing perhaps some of the other important things.
Did you have an intervention?
Ha ha! Yeah, they sat down, said, Dave, we're going to tell you. So, no, they know me, they know that I will just carry on until I finish and feel that the situation has been resolved.
And, I do think it's got in the way of him maybe getting a Nobel Prize for something else.
Then French Connection did something even more unbelievable than stopping sending me my brochure. So one day I was going into French Connection, as I usually did every other week, or every week even, looking through the t-shirts to check if there are any new infringements. I saw a design that was actually mine. It had WNAK, WNAK on it. The FCUK had stolen my WNAK. So I got the t-shirt, I got this top, and I went and bought it immediately and came home and I was like, what the hell am I going to do about this?
Yeah, subsequently I remember getting a phone call from Dave to say, Duncan, guess what? Good news. You could almost see his eyes light up over the phone.
So I sent them a letter. I sent them almost exactly the same trademark infringement letter that they sent me. All I needed to do, it was really simple, was change my name for their name. Dear sirs, it has recently come to our client's attention that your client is openly selling on its website and in its shops t-shirts featuring the slogan WNAK. Our client has significant goodwill in these marks, and your client's actions are a clear case of exploiting our client's reputation and goodwill. We look forward to hearing from you.
The argument is exactly the same. It's our goodwill, it's our mark. You've copied it, you couldn't possibly have got it elsewhere. It's unique to us. You're passing off as us. You're causing confusion in the minds of the public.
And they came back to me and responded. And they were absolutely furious.
And the result was a letter denying that there was any cause of action, denying that we had any sufficient goodwill in the mark, that we really weren't selling hundreds of thousands of units, and they latched directly onto that.
They put, "Are you seriously suggesting that 500 T-shirts that I'd sold of Winac was regarded as a trademark infringement?" And I was like, yeah, it is. 500 T-shirts is quite a lot for a company of my size. And they were obviously worried because they justified it by saying that by having the dot between the W, the N, the A and the K, it was not my Winac, it was their Winac. And by having the FCUK in this coat of arms, which I'd never seen before, and an anchor underneath, it was their Winac, and it clearly said it was made by French Connection.
Yeah, again, it's a question of, I suspect, a question of might and resources. And the next step, the only next step that a lawyer could have offered would have been to commence court proceedings, go to the High Court, let's get it on. And that's very expensive. And is Dave really going to spend 50,000, 100,000? Probably not. Dave's, a far better route to Dave would have been some other way of getting back or fighting French Connection that did not involve going to court.
Now, this wasn't their FCUK, this was my FCUK, because there was clearly a dot between the F, the C, the U and the K, and it was clearly made by King Cnut. There was no confusion whatsoever. I never saw another Winac T-shirt in a French Connection store. All the T-shirts with Winac on in the brochures, I never saw again. On the website, was never seen again. So I believe that within a very short period of time, they decided they better withdraw the Winac T-shirt. And I felt ecstatic.
Probably what happened, I would guess that Dave's just a minor annoyance to them at this stage. And each of their T-shirt designs only has a certain shelf life anyway. They're continually updating their stock. And I suspect they just ran that one through. I certainly don't ever recall receiving a letter from Davenport Line saying, "You've got us here. Yeah, sure, we'll withdraw our stock." They would never have admitted that. But it may have had some bearing on it.
I found out about this because someone phoned me and said, "Have you seen you've got a full page spread in the Metro newspaper today? They've mentioned you in a court case." So I ran down to the shop and I would say bought, but it's free, and got a free copy of the article. And I was amazed that they had used me as a defence. It was very likely that he was going to lose because French Connection was obviously had pumped a lot of money. They were employing a lot of people. The chances that a judge would go, "Yeah, I agree. Let's stop the trademark. Let's unemploy loads of people." A big company that supposedly helps the economy. The chances that you're going to get it overturned after several years, as well as them trading, is very small. French Connection's barrister, in French Connection's defence, the first thing he said was, "Why aren't you taking Cnut to court? Because their brand is much worse than ours." In the ruling made by this brilliant judge called Judge Arnold QC, in a decision made public yesterday, Judge Richard Arnold QC compared the FCUK trademark with Cnut. Cnut was not a swear word, he said, and the Cnut t-shirt website makes reference to the Danish-born King Cnut who ruled England from 1016 to 1035. The website displays the slogan, King Cnut may not have been able to turn back the tide in 1016, but he does make exceedingly good t-shirts. So I got a recommendation in the court for my t-shirt and got a judge to infringe on the Mr. Kipling logo at the same time. So I phoned Mr. Kipling. I decided that I wanted to work out how much it was likely to have cost French Connection, because it would cost me by this time about £10,000, I reckoned, fighting them. It was me, the accountant, the lawyer. I felt that was a fairly fair return for my £10,000 that I'd spent fighting them. Yeah, obviously that's just a guess of everything, but we have no idea. Just from the t-shirts being withdrawn and the brochures being destroyed, as well as the lawyers' letters and everything else they had to do, not including the compensation that French Connection had to give to the companies for what had been sold, we worked out that it probably cost French Connection in the region of £3.5 million. I will never stop. If I go past the French Connection shop, I will pop in and have a look, because there have been so many infringements that I've caught them doing over the years that I don't believe that they will ever stop. I need to know that they've stopped doing what they told me not to do.
Do you think he's been, generally speaking, victorious then?
I guess it depends how you define victory. He has done everything at his disposal to call to account a large corporation who Dave sees as wronging him or bullying him. And so he's using whatever means are at his disposal to try and get even, to try and get back.
An incredibly persistent person. Or French Connection are incredibly persistent, one or the other. But I suppose you just don't let them off the hook. If you can continue to tweak their tail and cost them a lot of money, for a relatively modest outlay yourself, then a good idea.
Yeah, because I think it's important to prick the pomposity of the unimaginative.
No, I like that kind of thing. Everyone loves an underdog. And Dave is that underdog.
I don't know is the answer. And I'm not quite sure where he's quite going to go on from this. If he continues, whether he's going to take up some other cause, which is quite possible. And I think if he does, he'll go into it fully as he's done with this.
But otherwise, I think it'd be nice for him to have a rest after this, because he certainly will need it.
When I was at the company, we had a conversation between us in the design studio about where the FCUK would go, because I honestly didn't think it would last more than a year. I didn't particularly like it, and I still don't. It's not my kind of product. And it was all about FC and not about fuck. That was the important thing. We would never cross that boundary, and we always had to be very clear about that. The whole trademarking thing was about the fact it's at FC. The conversation went along the lines of, well, at least there'll never be a motherfucker, which, of course, unfortunately, there has been, and worse. And I think that's a great shame, because the product and the brand are better than that, and they're bigger than that.
They probably wish they'd never met Dave or written the letter in the first place, I suspect.
All the letters that went backwards and forwards, all the time spent, all the stress, the hair loss, all the double standards, them still taking the higher ground all the way through, even though they've been infringing on hundreds of people's ideas, all the money that was involved, the bullying and the ridiculousness of the whole thing. If they had just ignored this little boy who had a t-shirt dream, none of this would have happened. So is that it?
Let me ask you an unrelated question. Would you share with us anything of your music?
Yes, why not? It should be, it'd be wonderful to have it at the, when the credits are rolling at the end, and here's the Lawyers Band.
To say, go ahead and say it anywhere. You promise yourself there's MCs, no sleeve straps, is anyway. You promise the lover that you will see sense over time. The ship sailed out to sea, you hesitated, dark side. And it's such a shame. Spoiled again. It's no good wishing on tomorrow when your conversations are full of yesterday. It's always the same, nothing's gonna change. It's always the same. It's always the same, nothing's gonna change. It's always the same. The sister you gained an attitude, don't let the welfare go to your head. Raise your hands, the milk's unchanged. get out of bed. And it's such a shame, it's such a shame. It's spoiled again, it's spoiled again. It's no good wishing on tomorrow when your conversations are full of yesterday. It's always the same, nothing's gonna change. It's always the same. It's always the same, nothing's gonna change. It's always the same. Cause I can't take any more of this madness. I'm leaving today. Front door bells ringing out, somebody come to take me away. It's always the same, nothing's gonna change. It's always the same. It's always the same, nothing's gonna change. It's always the same. Conversation's the same, nothing's gonna change. It's always the same. Situation's the same, nothing's gonna change. It's always the same.